Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to this episode of our show. This is your host, Keith Doherty. Today our special guest is top real estate broker Melanie Giglio-Vakos of Jameson, Sotheby's International Realty based out of Chicago, Illinois. Melanie has been in the real estate industry for over 15 years, and she's not afraid to say that she is constantly learning and growing in an industry she loves. She is proud to say that she has been consistently in the top 1% of realtors for the past 7 years, and just recently, she and her team, MVP team, became the top performers for all of Sotheby's International in Chicago. A celebrated media moment for Melanie was the Crain's coverage of the most expensive resale transaction in Trump Tower last year, where she represented the buyer, a long-time client. All right, with all that said, Melanie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Thanks so much.
And Melanie, if we could start for our listeners, what led you into real estate? Was it something that you always knew you wanted to do, or did you maybe stumble into it?
Well, throughout my life, I've always been, in sales in the service industry in one way or another. And I was just very fortunate that at a very young age, I was able to purchase my first home, and it was not a very pretty experience. I was just going through this really bad experience during what I thought was supposed to be, a very exciting time. And it was kind of a defining moment when I knew that a career in real estate was probably the path that I was meant to pursue. I really, I just wanted to make sure that I was doing everything in my power as a real estate professional, that I could ensure that my client's experience was very positive from the very beginning to the very end, unlike the experience that I had. So being involved in the transaction of people's homes, often, it's their most largest and their most important asset. I want to guide them through the entire process and assist them in making all the best choices, all the things that I knew that I would be good at. And I knew that it was having a great understanding of people and really listening to their wants and needs and desires, which are all very necessary for a successful transaction and therefore a very successful real estate professional. And I knew at that time I was a perfect fit for the industry.
Excellent. And do you think you could talk a little bit about what personal attributes, traits, or qualities you think have most contributed to the success that you've had in real estate?
Sales it's always been a part of my life. From the lemonade stand that I manned at 8 years old, which was, I must say, the most profitable in the neighborhood, to selling random items throughout my school and college years. Gosh, there's a huge list of things that I've sold. But it's been in my blood. And I just believe being a good salesperson, it's more of an innate skill. And you could certainly learn some sales techniques, but the art of selling is something that I believe that you're either born with or not. I feel like selling is an art. And it's an art of building long-term relationships, building trust, and ultimately having a keen understanding of, just human behavior. I'm a believer in constantly learning from the best in the industry. And with that, I'm constantly attending seminars, conferences, and I do have some very few important mentors in my life.
And do you think you give our listeners an example of when these traits have played a role in your path toward success?
Well, like I said, from a very early time in my life, I felt like I was always selling in one way or another. I mean, I sold Mary Kay. I remember selling lollipops when I was in 7th grade. It's just I've always been in sales. When I got a little bit older, I, worked at the mall and all the stores selling clothes. So it was just every job that I've ever had in my life from, I would say, 8 years old, I've always done some form of selling. And so that was just something that I knew that I needed to do. I just figured at some point in my life that I was going to sell the most important thing in people's lives, their most important asset. So that's how I got into it.
And Melanie, I think whenever somebody builds a successful career or business, that sometimes the path to get there is filled with bumps in the road along the way. Can you talk a little bit about some of the adversities or trials that you've had to overcome in order to achieve your goals? Well,
two definitely come to mind. I'd say that my my major adversaries that were unfortunately and fortunately surviving the financial crisis of 2008, and I had breast cancer in 2012. So when the financial market crashed, I knew that I basically had no choice but to do what I had to do to survive in real estate. So I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to join an REO seminar, that's a foreclosure seminar, and become one of Chicago's banks, like go-to realtors for dealing with their foreclosure transactions. So this is really how I was able to survive in real estate. And then also, while I was going through my treatment for breast cancer, the few precious hours that I actually had, when I was feeling well enough to work and focus on it, I just made sure that I used them wisely. Even if there was only an hour or two a day, I made sure that, that I really narrowed down on exactly what I needed to focus on in order to have a successful work day. And, by this point, I'd been in real estate for over 10 plus years, and I created a database that I was really proud of. So I worked my database and my network from my bed, and I did all that I could, to prepare so that, when I was ready, I had the business lined up. And with that, 2012 ended up being my best year at that point.
Wow, yeah, some big, adversities you had to overcome there, with obviously the market being a big one, but then your personal walking through cancer, so that's pretty big. I mean, what kept you going despite these obstacles? Why didn't you give up? What was your driving force?
Giving up was never an option for me. It just wasn't in my DNA. In 2011, right before I got diagnosed with breast cancer, I had my beautiful daughter, Aria, and I fought for her during my ordeal with cancer.
And Melanie, kind of looking forward, what's your vision for your business and your career over the next 5 years?
On a deserted island with no cell phone reception. So, just kidding. I wish that was the case. No, but I truly, I see myself continuing, to work at to work. I feel like I'm always going to work, but at a level that where I'll only be nurturing my relationships that I've fostered over the past 20 years. And that I've empowered my team to handle the day-to-day operations of the business. We're called the MVP team, and I just want the MVP team to be number one in the country, and I have no doubt that we'll achieve that goal.
And I guess kind of on top of that, what do you feel is the best way that you market yourself as a real estate professional so that you can have a continual growth? I know you obviously mentioned the, fostering a relationship, so kind of outside of that.
Well, honestly, the way that I feel like I am constantly marketing myself is not necessarily much more than just constantly calling my database of past clients and sphere of influence and reminding them that I'm out there selling real estate. And that is truly what I feel has been my huge success. And I've reached the pinnacle of success is when my database has become my number one vehicle for business. I have an incredible database, and I am constantly getting fed referrals from it.
And Melanie, I think whenever the general public looks at real estate agents, they don't fully understand the value that they provide from both a buyer and a seller standpoint. What do you think the biggest misconception or myth people have about working with a real estate agent?
I would probably say that this is what I hear, that we just provide no value, and they could simply just, use the internet or for sale by owner situation. They think it's that easy, and I think it's completely false. Anyone that has that mentality, I am very happy and willing to meet at my beautiful Gold Coast office and give a formal presentation.
And Melanie, let's say you get a call from a family member or a friend, and they're in another state, and they want to sell their home. Now, obviously, with your experience and probably with your connections, you could look up an agent and do a referral. But from a general advice standpoint, what advice would you give them about selecting an agent that could best serve their needs?
Well, you know what? I get this all the time, actually. I just had one recently where my past client sold their place and they were moving to Denver. So basically, the first thing that I do, I call the Sotheby's International Realty office in their city, and I would ask for the best agent that's suited for that particular transaction. And I'm really fortunate to have Sotheby's as an incredible national and international, they have a referral program, so that I know that when I refer someone to a counterpart in another city, that they'll be handled with the same level of care and professionalism that I handle with all my clients.
Excellent. And Melanie, obviously based out of the Chicago, Illinois area, and if somebody's looking for real estate services or an agent in that general area, what's the best way they can find out more information about you and how you can help them?
Well, they're welcome to reach out to me anytime. My email address, my direct email address is melanie@melaniegiglio.com, or they could just call me. Call me on my cell phone, 312-953-4998. My team and I we work 24/7, so we're always here to help.
Excellent. And Melanie, obviously we want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come here today and share all your professional real estate experience with our listeners. And if you're listening and you want to learn more about Melanie, obviously, like you said, you can email her or give her a call. Also below this interview, we'll have all of her contact information so that you can see how she can help you with your real estate needs. So with that said, everybody, until our next show, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.